veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play, and I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day, I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capping space. I won't stop till I hear him say, oh, oh, la, 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 la. And I'm up again. I got tired eyes, need a cup of blend. That's right, in the AM, that's my only friend. No light, just the sun coming up on the horizon. I lose track of time, yeah, I move fast and climb a new class divine, yeah, true passion shines. And I'm through passing time, I choose stacking dimes. You snooze half the time while I move passing by. I work hard each and every day, I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capping space. I won't stop till I hear him say.
Can you hear me? Miss Cook, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, now I can. For some reason, it was going. It like paused early in the intro for me, so I was like stuck on this end. I apologize. Welcome to Let's Talk on a Second Chance. My name is Philip Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease and needs to be coached for better outcomes, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com. Today we are still talking about, the lack of dialysate going out in this country of the United States, talking about how dialysis units throughout the country are lacking dialysate because of COVID-19. And we found some more research as we've been looking for more research about this. And we found an article where Johns Hopkins University is making dialysate and they're offering it to other states and other that I have hospitals that are in dire need for patients who are doing acute dialysis. And New York City is one of the main ones right now that got hit with a lot of COVID-19 patients that are on ventilators and they're doing acute dialysis. Because what we see is, well, what the doctors are experiencing are a lot of people having challenges with their kidney function when COVID-19 hits, especially if you have another modality going on, bless you, whether you have high blood pressure or diabetes and stuff like that. So I wanted to read this little article and then we'll get into it. On April 9th, clinicians from New York-based hospital contacted Derek Fine, clinical director of nephrology at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. They said they were running out of dialysis fluid and asked if they could spare some from their supply, says Craig Pareka, director of Division of Nephrology at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. As the severity of COVID-19 increases and patients are on ventilators for a long time, their needs for dialysis treatment to preserve the function of their kidneys also increases. In less than 2 weeks, Fine and Pareka assembled a team of nephrologists, nurses, and technicians from the Division of Nephrology and students from the Johns Hopkins Department of Biomechanical Engineering to develop a method to make dialysis fluid for the type of dialysis used in intensive care. continuous venous hemodialysis. What's your thoughts on this, Phil? I love to see that other hospitals are reaching out to other hospitals for the help, for this dialysis. What's your thoughts on this?
For me, like we talked about earlier, I think it was uh, I won't say spare the moment thing for him. I think it was kind of one of those shocker situations because, when it deals with the population numbers, things like that, we know that they like to look ahead to try to, possibly figure out things that they can do to fix things before they even get to it. So I'm sure that they look, okay, hey, well, right now we're at the rate of XYZ with dialysis patients. So, if we stay on this path, on this rate, by the time we get to 15, 20 years from now, we should be at XYZ number. And so when you go through that, it's 9 times out of 10, it's pretty accurate, right? Again, unless you run into something like we are now in the past 2 years with COVID-19. Nobody was expecting COVID-19 to happen. And COVID-19 is the big, is a big reason why a lot of people are developing acute kidney injury, because of the sickness of COVID-19. And so when you add that, uh, those numbers of people who are intensive care and stuff like that who need these treatments, these are technically extra treatments that they did not count for to have to do at this time, right? They had one specific number 10, 15, 20 years ago, and then we hit 2020, and they're like, oh wait a minute, we got to recalculate and figure things out. And a lot of people think uh things are when it comes to like science and stuff like that, that things can just be developed, excuse me, developed quickly. Is not That's not the case. Think of it like this: we've been, for the past couple months, we've been looking at pig kidney, pig heart transplant, bioartificial kidney, things of that nature. But those things didn't just happen over time. These things were put into effect and started years ago, and it took time to get to where it is now. And so uh, that I think that, again, like I said, that kind of last second out of nowhere COVID-19 was an issue for them with those numbers. So I hope that we can get to a point where we get back to normal with these dialysis treatments. I know there's a number of other things we need to touch on that me, myself, and you have talked about today, this morning, just on this particular topic. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, I'm going to read this other part. According to the National Kidney Foundation, approximately 3 to 9% of patients with COVID-19 develop acute kidney injury, with many requiring dialysis. The reason is unknown, but acute kidney injury is often caused by an infection or other serious illnesses and can occur in a matter of hours or days. When this happens, the kidneys are unable to remove the waste and excess fluid from the body as normally do. In urgent situations, such as the intensive care unit, a central venous catheter is placed in a large vein to enable access to the person's blood for dialysis treatment. One tube from the catheter carries blood to the dialysis machine. Another tube returns processed blood to the patient. So you're right about that. We never you turn that on turn that off, turn that thing off. One thing I could definitely say, man, is we never thought, that's one thing I can honestly say. We never thought that COVID was going to attack people's kidneys. Now, it could, that's up for grabs. It could have attacked hearts. It could have attacked lungs. It could have attacked lungs. It could attack, your pancreas. We don't know, and because they don't know. Why don't you turn it on vibrate, bro? Because they don't know, why it attacked kidneys and things like that. But it did attack the kidneys. the challenge with this though is, okay, they're using this supply of, and they're giving it to, people who have acute dialysis. But what's the effect is going to happen to people who've been on dialysis for, years already, and all of a sudden you're taking them and shortening up their treatment? How's that? What kind of impact will that create? Is what I'm saying. Because you're like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You follow what I'm saying? That's what it sounds like. It's like you're robbing these people to pay these people. So we're gonna cut people back who've been doing dialysis for several years, and some of this population is very, very old. If they're doing dialysis, more than likely they have another modality, high blood pressure, diabetes, something else is going on. I have never met anybody that just usually just has one segment. It's very rare. We do see it, but usually they have another modality going on as well. So I wonder what the challenge is when okay, like yesterday we talked about people who they go into dialysis for a period of time and all of a sudden they get cut back for hours because they don't have enough dialysate fluid because we're giving it to these other patients. So it's like again, it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't agree with it, especially like we talked about this before we got on here, and I think there needs to be a different way that needs to go about this. I think if anything, uh, those people who are already on it, like you said, lifers and things like that, they have to. You leave those people at their regular time and how they do dialysis. You don't change that because people who 10, 15 years in dialysis, their bodies are now used to you know how it functions with the right amount of dialysis. So if you take that away from them, it throws everything off for them. So, but what I wanted to touch on earlier before we got on here was uh, with the transplant list, because we talked about that as well, is if the only way that I can see it even being okay when it comes to hold on one second, bro.
Okay, since Phil's not here, I'll just keep on talking. Again, this can be a challenge for the older population who is doing dialysis. And I wonder who are they specifically telling that they have to run their treatment 2 or 3 hours less, opposed to, what's the population of the people they're telling not to run? I mean, cutting their time back, opposed to the people that they're not cutting time back. Like, are they cutting the time back of somebody who's an older patient who's been doing dialysis for a while? They're going to be a like what we call a lifer on dialysis, or are they cutting the people back who are a little bit healthier and let's cut them back? That's what I question. I wonder who they're cutting back per se. Like, what population are they cutting back? Do they have a list in the dialysis center? Like, I wonder what the dialysis spa like. Okay, we have a list and we're gonna cut these people back, but we're not gonna cut these people. Who makes the list on who's getting cut back and who's making a list on who's not getting cut their treatment? That's what I'm talking about. That's the main concern right now.
Sorry about that. I'm not the only person here, and I have to open the door. But to actually elaborate on what you were just saying, right, about the list, is if you're gonna cut anybody off, right? If you're gonna start cutting time on people, the only people that I can see that would even be in the realm of possibility of being able to cut time for are people who are at the top of the list, people who are at the top that you can put on one of those short lists to get the bioartificial kidney. When things get ready for 100% ready for the pig kidney, and those we talked about this before. It's gonna be once you get a little further in time, it's gonna be multiple lists for multiple types of transplants. So I mean, if you're gonna put those people start the list off with those people to get move them over. Hey, we're gonna give you this transplant, and to get you off dialysis or whatever. Okay, I'm cool with that because then they're not going on X amount of time with that small amount of dialysis. You put them on there for month, maybe 2 or whatever, and you give them that that transplant and go on.
I understand where you're coming from, but this is one thing I do know though is going into a transplant, your body's about to get really, really impacted with a lot of surgery, a lot of healing is going to require. It's going to require a lot of healing. You want your body to be toxic free as much as possible before you go into that transplant. I've seen people get run dialysis that day and then go to transplant, all because they want the blood to be clean to the maximum. So when that person heals up, so that might be a challenge. That you're going to take the top people who are about to get a kidney transplant. I understand your thought process, but that could backfire. Where the people who aren't just you just created somebody not to be healthy enough to get a kidney, all because they have been running a month or so, less than an hour. So that their KT over V, their dialysis adequacy, is nowhere up to standards for them to get a transplant because of the toxicity that and the trauma the body's going to take when it gets a transplant. You would think you would want those people to be the healthiest.
Well, I agree with that, and then that's what I would say. And I agree with that. You want them to be in the best position uh, possible for that recovery and that surgery. So that week or so leading up to you turn that dialysis back up on them. The whole thing about it is to save what we can save without it causing really an issue. So I'm not saying you just completely cut them off from that time, but especially like I said, like you were saying, getting into that procedure like that week, you put them back at that full time so they can get put in that position so their body can take that kidney and
I don't think a
start
week is
fighting
enough
me.
time, though. I don't think a week is enough time for anybody. Okay, now I'm running 3 times a week, but this week I'm gonna run 4 hours, and that's gonna clear up everything. Man, you know as well as I do. You don't run your treatment, and you don't run your treatment for a month, and I'm talking about you don't get dialysis adequacy for a month. You can affect the heart, you can affect the lungs, you can affect a lot of things that can't be. It could be irreversible damage, is what I'm saying. To the point where their heart has got impacted with that, and they can't even go through and get a transplant now because they didn't have dialysis adequacy for that month. That whole month can cause you to get you off the transplant list. That whole month can cause you not to get a kidney, all because you can't overcome the cardio distress test. That's what I'm talking about. So, playing with this is a delicate situation. You can't just say, all right, man, in a week's time, we're going to pump you back up and clear out the blood. That month of you not running your full treatment can impact your lungs and your heart and can make your arteries hard, all kinds of stuff, because you're already on the edge of not being the best person that you are physically because of of dialysis that you're on. So I don't know if that'll even work either, Phil. I'm questioning that too. But I think what you're saying is valid. I can see them doing something like that. My point overall though is I wonder, like, taking an hour off somebody's time, an hour and a half off somebody's time for a period of time. And we saw the lady yesterday talk about they gave her a kit and said you got to go somewhere else to get dialysis. because we don't have enough. I feel the impact is probably, critical already where somebody's got affected by that. That's all I'm saying. What's your thought?
Well, one thing honestly that just came to my mind, and I'm pretty sure somebody thought about this, but then I think you still get left in the same situation we in is uh, moving people to home peritoneal dialysis, right? But then even if you do that, you still get put in well, there's a possibility that you still get placed in a situation of shortage of supplies because now all you're doing is taking the shortage people from hemodialysis and moving them to peritoneal dialysis, which still puts them in a position of a shortage because they're not looking at these numbers as where they were supposed to be at this time. Um, it's not
Let
like
me ask you this though, and you know this already. There we have a older population that couldn't even think about doing peritoneal dialysis. Their homes aren't set up for peritoneal dialysis. Their life's not set up for peritoneal dialysis. They wouldn't know the first thing about taking a class and learning how to do something like that. Man, they would know. There's a lot of people that go to hemodialysis and they sit there and get hooked up and they don't know the first thing about what's going on. They just don't know anything, and they're older population, and they don't care. They just want to go through this treatment, go home, and do what they do. And you're gonna take that population because you're gonna take that population and say, okay, now you gotta go home and do dialysis. And I'm playing devil's advocate on this. I just don't see a lot of people doing that because we know, and I know you know, the default mechanism of dialysis, especially if you're doing home dialysis, is go back to the center. Something happens wrong, I'm not doing it anymore. I've seen people get so afraid of doing home dialysis where they just go back to the center. They're like, I don't have no part of that. I don't feel comfortable hooking myself up. I don't feel comfortable, bringing the bags in. I don't feel comfortable, sleeping all night with this machine on me. I don't know, man. This is just a
but
slippery slope.
for older people, even no matter what the age is, what's the difference from hiring a night nurse for hemodialysis than hiring a night nurse for peritoneal dialysis? They're doing the same. The only difference is the steps that they take to put a patient on dialysis. And for a nurse, it's probably easier that way to do peritoneal dialysis. But what's the point of what's the difference of you hiring a nurse to do home hemodialysis as opposed to doing home peritoneal dialysis? And the
Can
thing
people
about it is
afford it?
that
Can people afford
for
a nurse?
you said what?
Can people afford a nurse?
Well, what I'm saying is more or less for the ones who can, with the right insurance or can pay for it or whatever. But my whole thing is it's the same process. You have somebody there help you connect to it, listen for alarms and whatnot or whatever. Go home in the morning. Go do however that happens after the fact. Unless you need somebody to inform, and they can get it. I mean, how many times in the past 10 years, I've gotten calls from facilities trying to come to my house to do an appointment, and then because I guess the way that they read my chart or whatever, they figured that I needed it. And I'm like, no, I don't need it. I do stuff on my own. I go to walk to the store, do this, do that, whatever. And they're like, oh, okay, well, it says something different in your chart. So here's the thing is that it just depends on who your doctor is really, if they'll write it the way they need to write it for you to get it. Because and the thing about it is that 90% of the time, it's been the same people. Mr. Jones would call him because I'm like, look, I done had this conversation 8 times already. Like, why y'all still calling me? And 9 times out of 10, they usually call after a hospital stay or something like that. But
Right. because they will
So
call after, right, they will call after a hospital stay because they're recommended to call you to see, for an update like 30 to 60 days after a hospital. But I don't know if anybody's insurance is going to pay for somebody to keep coming to them all the time and putting them on the machine and all, stuff like that. I just think the bottom line of this whole thing, and this is the last time we're going to talk about it, is COVID-19 is more destructive than what we anticipate. That's for sure. You made that announcement, and I totally agree with you on that. I think we have to put in place more things when these significant things happen like this. I feel America should have been a little bit more prepared. The dialysis community, the big companies, the hospital should have been a little bit more prepared in this situation. That's another thing I'll say, and I'll leave it there.
yeah, I you know you want to gotta. Well, it's something that we just got to work out. Excuse me, some kind of way, because if we don't work it out, people die. So at the end of the day, we got to figure out something, some kind of way, to make it work. And I hope that we can get it done quickly before we have more casualties of people who died because of shortened treatment time and stuff like that. So um, my hat goes off to John Hopkins for taking the time uh, to put these teams together, to make this happen, and figure, and be that starting point of figuring out, a way around this. So, if you're in the dialysis game, and I mean like up there, and you watching, uh, you know, please take these steps that you need to take to not only put yourself, your business, whether it's Fresenius, Baxter, whatever, dialysis spa, whatever the case may be, put yourselves and patients in a position to continue to move forward and take the next steps into the future, as opposed to having to cut steps off from people, and they die and lose their life because there's not enough treatment time, or there's not enough supplies to run the full treatment. It's the reason why you gave us those times in the first place. You knew what we needed as patients in order to continue to somewhat live a good quality of life on dialysis, right? I mean, you only live so well on dialysis, but at least it's somewhat a possibility. So, put patients in a position to keep being able to live, and make it to their goal of a transplant. And I just hope we can again get around not only the shortage but COVID-19 in general. And we just keep fighting and get through this thing together. So, but I'm done. It's the end of the week, Friday. We got a show coming up on Sunday with Bella Langston. She'll come through and tell her transplant story as a kidney transplant recipient. And then it's we just getting started. It's February. We started off the year great. We're doing these shows. Let's talk every day. We've had some great guests on Sundays that have come through so far. We have some more coming through as well. Next week we have Jonathan Traylor and Kyle Hockridge, Kidney Conversations, coming through to talk to us. And then the week after that, we have a good friend of mine, Zach Brooks, who's also a transplant recipient and a part of the transplant games as well. And then we end the month with Shell Allen. So Great month of February. We got our conference coming up at the end. Some stuff. The 1 year anniversary week is going to be awesome as well. I have a week of shows that week that'll be great, informative, emotional, all that stuff. So again, appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you on Sunday and throughout the week, throughout the year. So have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and we'll see you back Sunday night.
Peace.